penises. You know what? I didn't think about it before I said that, but let's see if penises shows up when we start the actual show. Hey, everybody, it's the Noise Brigade. I'm Bobby. He's Tom, and you can probably already tell how the hell this episode's going to go. Tom, how are you?
I'm good, man. We're just off to the races here, aren't we, on this one already?
Oh yeah, this is what happens when Bobby has a migraine and decides that it's still a good idea to record an episode here. So this should be super fun, and I'm definitely not at all riled up and angry. So so yeah, this episode we're gonna do. This is actually based on me playing the hell out of Pokemon Legends Arceus or Arceus. I don't know how you actually pronounce it. Sure we'll get some hate mail on that. Um, so it's Tom, have you played it at all? Have you seen much about it?
No, okay, so I have not yet. And it's pronounced Arceus.
Arceus. Okay.
Arceus. Yeah.
Arceus? Oh,
Yeah,
oh.
Arceus. Yeah.
Arceus.
There you
Okay.
go. Thank you, Google. But no, I haven't really, I haven't done much with it since my kids do a lot of the sword and shield stuff still, and some of the other things they've gotten into with it. I've seen it, haven't done anything with it yet. So you were kind of the precipice for this one, in sense that you were playing that, and then you shot me a text message and said, you know, something to the effect of, and I'm going to paraphrase you on this because I think this is a very open-ended topic, but it kind of boils down to modern graphics and gaming, and I want you to kind of run through us on what the concept here is.
So basically, modern gaming takes very many forms. It's different for everybody, but everybody, when you think of gaming and you think of the different generations, you expect, or at least, we were conditioned to expect a great leap in the graphics. What makes a game next gen? What can this game system do? The ones that came out before it couldn't do, right? I mean, that's what I always. What's the first thing? Uh, the first thing you do when you get a new system, it's kind of like the first thing you do when you get a new TV, is you try to find the most spectacular thing that shows off the new graphical prowess of whatever it is that you're trying to mess with, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with exactly consoles, computers, over the years, whether it was just, it's funny how that's kind of gone, where it's like traditional desktop, and then it's like the whole goal is to get it smaller and smaller and smaller. And then the gaming industry explodes, and now it's back to this gigantic desktops. Um, but the whole point is like now you have these like the super fast, the graphics are insane, but like you said, to the television, same deal. It's like I want to see how crystal clear the different shades of blue. It's weird how one little thing can make such a big difference, especially nowadays, and that
Right. Like
sort of
I want to
thing.
see the individual nose hairs on the actor that's on my TV, like with 4K and 8K and 24K and
But
you
as
know.
yeah, exactly. But as you were saying though in the text, and like I said, I'll paraphrase you here on this. Does that necessarily make it great,
Right.
or
And
the or
so
or vice versa?
right, does a game have to have great graphics to be a great game? And I mean on the surface, you can say no, no, clearly no. But dig in a little bit. And that's where I kind of wanted to take this is I kind of wanted to like deconstruct the question a little bit and dig way too far into it, I guess is really what we're doing with it. Because and what made me think of this is there's been a lot of hate online for Arceus, for Pokemon Legends Arceus, because it's not maybe what everybody thought it was going to be. When it was announced, everybody seemed to think it was going to be this open world game. It was going to be, oh, the graphics it's going to be like Breath of the Wild, but for Pokemon, and it's going to be this and it's going to be that. And then as stuff started trickling out, and you started seeing some of the graphical limitations of the game, people started getting worried, and they're like, "Oh my god, what are they doing?" And then as it came out and they saw, like, people were like, oh no, it's okay, it's just that's demo stuff, it's not the finished product. But then it came down to when it came out, and a lot of the graphical issues that people saw in the demos, or not in the demos, but in like the demo videos and stuff like that, it was kind of, that stuff was there still. Like the Pokemon, if they're farther away, they have a limited animation. And one of the other things is the trees don't look great, or there's pop up and stuff like that. And maybe the draw distance isn't as good as some people would like. But I still, sitting here today playing this game, I look at it and I play it, and it's absolutely the best Pokemon game that I've ever played. It is
Is
the
it
most fun that I've had with a Pokemon game. And I have played pretty much every main game, you
right?
know?
And I think that it speaks to that. And look, let's kind of rewind a little bit, just being on this. Let's Obviously this is on the Nintendo Switch, correct?
Yes.
So you and I've had this conversation before, whether it's on or off pod. Um, but we've talked about the technical limitations of the Switch anyway, and I've even commented on how when it was originally released, it was pretty much old hardware then, comparatively. Based on the specifications, you're playing in a limited sandbox, as it is. If you're developing a game meant to be played on that system, hands down, that's just how it is.
Right.
Um, and quite frankly, every Pokemon game I've played, every Pokemon game I've seen up to that one, I have no, no frame of reference. I've not touched that one yet. Um, doesn't exactly light the world on fire that way, but that's not the way that's supposed to be. It's,
Right.
I don't know. I don't,
It's a
without
triple A
even,
title.
right. Without even having any kind of, frame of reference on that specific game. I mean, I still don't understand how the expectations could be that either great for it, or like what would the comparison would be, because it just, I don't know. That's a weird one.
Well, honestly, I think part of the issue is people, like I said, it is a triple A title. People expect, you know, that it's going to at some point catch up to Mario, catch up to Zelda, and that Nintendo's going to treat it like it's one of its top tier properties, which honestly, I feel like it does. Again, I haven't played the spin-off games, but then but Pokemon is everywhere, right?
Right.
And so I think when they started to see some of the scope of this game, because it's a very, where in Pokemon Sword and Shield there was a couple main zones. This has these big expansive areas that you can go to, one or go from one to the other to the other to the other, but they're not all linked together. You have to go back to a central hub.
Mm-hmm.
And what people were expecting was, oh, I'm going to be able to go from this section to this section to this section seamlessly. And it's going to have all the Pokemon, and it's going to do this, and it's going to do that. And initially, like I said, it looked initially like it was going to be more in the mold of Breath of the Wild, where it was just everything was beautiful. But honestly, it has its own art style. And I think that this stuff works for what it is, for the art style they used. Would I like to see less pop in? Yes. Would I like to see a greater draw distance? Yes. Would I like to see the Pokemon moving fully? If I can see them on my screen, I feel like they should kind of be moving fully. But you know what? It kind of works for what this is. But people just can't take it for that because let's face it, what is a video game, a hardcore gamer's favorite pastime? It's not playing the games.
No,
It's bitching about the games.
right, exactly. And, really the other thing too is that, you know, for the positive side of it, it's just the sheer enjoyment, which has nothing to do with the graphics or any of the little nitnoid things that, that's what I was thinking, more of the glass half full when you phrase that. I was thinking more pure enjoyment. That's why,
Right.
like, even though you have these, I think it's the hardcore fans that will sit there and really nitpick things um, that way. But I look, I always go back to, speaking of, look, we'll talk about this in terms of time. Let's pretend Tecmo Super Bowl was released today and compare that to Madden. I'm going to tell you to this day that that's still a more fun experience, and I'm going to enjoy that a lot more. So regardless of the graphics, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's just how that is. Um, yeah, no, but you're not wrong. I mean, that's what they like to do. They like to nitpick and they like to find the everything that's wrong with it. And just because this shadow is not in the right spot or this doesn't move as fast or as far as it should, but then they kind of, I don't know if people focus on that and then they lose sight of the actual game. It's not enjoyable. I don't know. It's
Well, I
weird.
mean, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think that they focus on that stuff. They focus on the nitpicky stuff, and it's like they lose the ability to enjoy the game from that stuff. From these little things. Now, and I'll tell you this too. I actually at one point when I first started playing it and I first started getting into it, and I'm like, okay, I see what people are talking about. I see why they're complaining. And my initial thought on it was I would be willing to bet that before COVID happened and before the chip shortage happened, before everybody was having trouble getting their hands on hardware, I'll bet you Nintendo thought they were going to have the quote unquote Switch Pro out. And I think they thought that they were going to be, that the developer thought they were going to be working with stronger hardware and that this would be your baseline and that the
Mm,
Switch Pro would run it smoother with a better draw distance, with all these upgrades. But
that's
then they weren't
possible.
able to. But I
That's
started thinking
possible.
about it, and while that, I mean, maybe that's true. I feel like that's more conspiracy theory level thinking. I really think that maybe this was the idea for the game all along. And honestly, I don't hate it. Like this, like I said, it's my very favorite. That maybe it's recency bias, or maybe I'm just not as discerning a customer as you know the 16-year-old down the street who's wearing Pokemon t-shirts and Pokemon hats and planning on getting Pokemon tattoos. Like maybe I'm not the maybe me not being the target audience makes me the perfect audience for this game.
Could be. Yeah, and you said it before too. Certain games have certain style. Um, and I think that's a great point. Um, you're not going into that necessarily expecting, no, you're not, but maybe others are, expecting, next gen, otherworldly, this is going to be completely different and overhauled and whatever. you know you're a fan, obviously. I mean, you have a very well rounded experience with Pokemon and other like titles. So I'm not gonna say you walked into it with rose colored glasses, but you walked into it as a fan without, with knowing like some background, like, this people don't like this about it, or they're whatever this about it. You had that, mentioned that. But like you said, maybe you're not the one that's sitting there and being like, you're being very glass half full about it.
Yeah,
Like, you get it, you understand it. You're not sitting there destroying it just based on, you know what, this is a terrible game because the shadows are off.
right. Well,
you
it's kind
know,
of and I guess maybe it's more. I guess maybe what if I so I guess maybe if I compare it more towards sports, maybe I can understand a little bit more where they're coming from. Like, this Eagles season obviously was very up and down, right? I think we can both agree on that.
mm-hmm.
And it ended in the playoffs, which we didn't think we were going to get to. And there were times throughout the season where, I mean, we did a podcast where I went on like a 20-minute curse-filled rant on the team and tearing it apart and just shredding it, right? And as the season went on and they changed things, things got better. But there was stuff to like earlier in the season And while I enjoyed it, maybe I guess these Pokemon fans that are destroying the game, maybe they're much like me early in the season. Their expectations were just such that anything short of 100% spectacular, their passion for it is anything other than perfection isn't good enough.
Right. Yeah. No, I think, and that's the thing. I think you have to kind of take games like that with the way they are. So, you know, look, does that short change in graphics, does it still discount it from being a great game, in your opinion?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And I think there's a bunch of other games. Well, we're gonna really hit modern games here, and that was the kind of the precipice for this one. And we're gonna kind of go back and forth with different things that we've played recently, graphics wise, and I think we both have some ideas and thoughts too on kind of the other way too, where it's like, hey, this might have spectacular graphics, but you know what, this is pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Um, so I've got some of those, but I shot you one, and I know I kind of caught you by surprise with it. But I've been playing a lot of Sackboy for the PS5, and I think to me this fits in this perfect realm of talking about where you have a game where it's obviously it's fitted for next gen consoles. It's spectacular on gameplay, has great multiplayer, has fantastic music, and for the world, for the environment, for the style, to me it has very good graphics. It really does, and but if you've ever played the Little Big Planet games before, it's in the same exact vein because that's what it is. It's another one in the series. Here's my thing though, and this is I think the thing that I was really thinking with this one. I don't go into that game playing it because of the graphics at all. I understand the type of game that it is. To me, those type of games, regardless if it was on, the PS5, the PS4, or if you had a similar game that was on a Switch or some other console, that's not why I play it. It's
Right.
a fantastic game. It still fits the mold of a great game, but it's not because of the graphics. Yeah, the graphics are good, and they're wonderful for the style, but like compare that to look at what's an upcoming title next month for the PS5.
Oh, Horizon.
Oh, well, that Gran Turismo. I was thinking of Gran Turismo 7.
Oh yeah. I honestly, dude, until you told me the other day the Gran Turismo 7 was coming out, I had no idea.
Yeah, dude, that's in my wheelhouse. Those games, I have not played one in a long time, but it's in my wheelhouse, and it's an anniversary edition, and I'm all about it. But those to me, those things, because that's going to be like to me one of the first times we're actually going to see what graphics can really do on next gen systems. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's going to be to me legitimately real. I'm not expecting that with Sackboy. I think that's where I was at in my head whenever we were talking about this earlier. It was like, this isn't Gran Turismo. This isn't, this otherworldly, this looks like, real life game, but it's still a great game. It doesn't have to be the graphics that do it. There's other things. So I don't know. That's kind of where I was at with that one. I'm not saying the graphics are bad. Not at all. I have no problems about them because I realize the kind of game that it is. It's a
Right.
cartoon. It is what it is. But at the same point, it's not what it makes it. And um, I don't know. It's one that to me is really interesting to think about in regards of modern games. Doesn't don't necessarily have to have it, and I think a lot of the ones we're going to talk about here are probably more Switch related though, because that's kind of where we're at with this concept.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. So if you my thing with the Switch is I love it. I absolutely love it. And I don't care that it's an underpowered system. But at the end of the day, what we have to face as video game fans is that it is an underpowered system. It doesn't compete with the Xbox Series X. It doesn't compete with the PS5. The fun factor does. But honestly, looking at the systems, it doesn't compete with the PS4 and it doesn't compete with the Xbox One. It is its
No.
own system and it should be judged by that. But the problem is, everybody wants it to play the big AAA games that are on every other system. And so that's why it's so important for Nintendo to make sure that their games, their first party games, look good and that they get these exclusives. So, Nintendo or Nintendo Odyssey, Super Mario Odyssey, gorgeous game,
Oh yeah.
absolutely stunning game. Um, you know, uh, what's the other one that just came out? The one that's coming out. It's Kirby Forgotten World. Looks like an absolutely gorgeous game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to get my hands on that one.
Breath of the Wild, even for being a launch title and being something that can run, albeit not very well, on the Wii U, is still a gorgeous game. Yes, it has its graphical limitations, but it's a beautiful game, right? Now, what's something that all of these games and Sackboy's Adventure have in common?
Oh, they all have iconic characters and
Well,
iconic, you know.
besides that, I mean more like from a gameplay stand or from a game standpoint. What's something else that sticks out to you about those games?
Other than the fact that they're all fun and really enjoyable.
The music.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
Hands
the
down.
music and the sound effects. And that's something that I find in Legends Arceus or Arceus. Arceus. Um,
Arceus. Yeah.
dude,
We're
I'm
gonna
gonna
get there.
butcher that all freaking episode. Um, it's something that game has in spades, and everything matches, everything goes together. The art style, the sound, everything, and it all just comes together to make a great game. And so, like I said at the outset, it sounds kind of silly to say, does a game need to have great graphics to be a great game? No, but there's something to be said. It's that extra little icing on the cake, so to speak. You know,
It's
you,
something that brings it all together.
right?
That's the thing with the audio track on games. I've always thought that too, and I've made it a point here. Hell, look, 14 years ago, I had a 6 episode wrestling theme show podcast that I ran that I posted out on the web, and we flirted with throwing some audio out there from that at one point or another. I've always been a big fan of that, but I've always been a big fan of soundtracks in general, movies, TV shows, video games. So yeah, big difference there. Ties it all
Yeah,
together, makes it a fun experience. 100% agree.
and that's the thing too. Like, let's diverge off of our video game topic for a moment, and let's step into the world of movies and TV. So there are certain, and I'm sure for you as well, there's certain shows, certain movies that the music made it 10 times better. And it makes it to the point where, like a lot of TV shows, if you don't have them on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever, and you try and watch them on a streaming service and it's so far down the road, you're going to be let down because those episodes that you're watching, you're expecting you know, that banger of a song to play during a specific scene. It's kind of like we talked about with wrestling tapes, where especially in ECW, since they use
Yep.
licensed music that they didn't have the license for, they had to dub over it on the tapes and stuff, and it just completely takes you out of it, and it takes you out
Yeah.
of the moment.
Oh
But
yeah.
that song being there could really just make or break that scene. I can think to something recent that came up. Um, so what a song that really makes the scene, and actually this song now gets me super hyped up, even though it's not like a hype song. But there's a song by M83 called "Do It," and it's in an episode. It's at the end of an episode, at the end of a season of Letter K. and it's just like this kind of like poppy dance track, but it sets the scene for a fight. And so now when I hear it, like, and I'll come back, like, I swear to God, I'll sit here, and I did this one night, not too long ago. I watched that scene over and over and over again. It must have been like 10 times that I sat and watched through the whole scene and through the credits just to hear that song in the context that I first heard it, because it was that cool. And then I can take it to the flip side, where on the flip side, I was watching Scrubs on Netflix, and there was an episode where If I Had $1 Million by Bare Naked Ladies was played throughout the scene. And then I went and I was like, all right, you know what? I really want to watch that episode. I went, I put that episode on, and it's some generic, like, just terrible pop song playing in place of it.
Right.
And it just completely I had to go get my DVDs. I was trying to watch it on Netflix for convenience. So then I had to go get my DVDs out and put my DVD in and watch it that way because it ruined it. So what experience? I mean, you've got experiences like that, I'm sure, right?
Dude, in just thinking when you were talking about that with mentioning with losing out on streaming services, obviously one of the first things that came to my mind too was the ECW hardcore TV.
Right.
And I do, luckily I have some stuff from stuff that I recorded, back in
Nice.
the late 90s. So I do have that, but um, I always think of like really simplistic things. Like I remember, watching Boondock Saints on DVD, and that has such iconic DVD menu theme music.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the movie, but it's in the movie for very few seconds. But on the menu, because it's repetitive, it goes over and over and over again. So I can remember, we would all be, you, me, Brooks, whoever else, we'd be sitting, playing games, whatever, but and inevitably end up throwing that movie on, and it'd be on, and we all pass out, fall asleep, and the theme music would just play over and over and over and over again. And it's just like, man, I just really love that. But it's, you go try to find that, go try to download it.
I have
It's not, yeah, it's one of those things. It's really hard to find though. It's not
Oh
like it's
yeah,
an act. Not an easy thing.
I'm fairly
Um,
certain that was a LimeWire download back in college.
exactly. See, it's stuff like that. But those are the things that I always think about, and that's the thing that was funny. I'll kind of circle back around to Sackboy. That's why I love it. They have some very, like, speaking of licensed music, unlike ECW, um, they do. And, we playing it through, and, it was funny. Actually, I was playing last night with the kids, and they had Jungle Boogie, which is really funny thinking about it because that was an
It's the
ECW.
FBI.
No, it was
Uh,
Too Cold Scorpio.
oh, that's right. That's right.
It was
Why did I think
yeah,
that? No, the FBI was staying alive.
Staying Alive. Yep, they had
Yeah.
the Staying Alive remix. Yep.
Uh,
So, but Jungle Boogie was Too Cold Scorpio. But anyway, they had that, and they were like, Katie was like, "What is it saying?" And I'm like, "Jungle Boogie." Like, no. What it was? She was like, "What's the name of this song?" Yeah, that's what it was. But it was really funny. But then we were playing it a couple days prior, and this song comes on. It sounds very elevator music-ish, typical, background. And Danielle came out and said, "Is that Material Girl?" And I was like, "Oh my god, it is!" And they have like this, cover of Material Girl by Madonna, but it's just like sounds like elevator music
Get
in
out.
the game. Yeah, and it's really, but
Oh,
there's a
I haven't
bunch of
gotten to that part yet. That's funny.
yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that through that game, and it's just really cool. And but to me, again, same thing. It kind of makes it. Um, but yeah, dude, I'll go back and forth on things with uh finding soundtracks or these things that just really make it a better experience. I find it more with games and wrestling, I think, than I do anything else. But I do enjoy a movie that has solid music throughout. And I think that's what makes like a movie like let's kind of go down this road too, like Guardians of the Galaxy so good.
Yes.
Just because it's such a killer soundtrack. And I'm not saying that the movie's not good, But you take out that iconic music out of that movie, what do you really have? You have a great movie, a funny actor in Chris Pratt, and a bunch of other, good stuff going on in your typical Marvel movie. Take the music out, it's a different movie. So I don't know. It just really, yeah, I could go on about those types of things because they're just really, yeah, no,
No, dude,
that
and I get it 100%. I 100% agree with you. That's the thing with that, like you said, with that movie, you would still have a good movie without it. You would still, that would still be a thing. But you add that in and it just takes it to a whole nother level.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes it so good about the what we've been talking about here. I know we've kind of gone down some different roads, but look, modern games, talking about Pokemon Legends Arceus or, some of these other the ones that we've mentioned so far, it's not the graphics that necessarily make it. It's other things. It's gameplay. It's the music. So to that point, what other games are on your mind about, hey, you know, the graphics may not necessarily be up to snuff, but man, the game's amazing.
There's a couple games that come to mind, and it's hard to say on some of these. Some of them it's going to be a little bit weird for me to say it because at the time maybe the graphics were the best thing going. You know, but when you look at it, and again, I'm gonna say my famous go-to. Um, Playing it now, NFL 2K, the graphics are kind of weak, but it's an Xbox game, an original Xbox game, a PS2 game. It's not going to stand up to the test of time. It's not going to be the Madden that just came out. You know, um, but looking at some other stuff that's come out. Let's see. I'm trying to think because I mean, pretty much any non first party title that's been on the Switch. Um, you know, Super Bomberman R, not a graphical powerhouse, but you know what? It's a damn fun game. Um, Space, dude. Okay, the Space Invaders game.
Oh,
Um,
Space Invaders Extreme.
yeah. Space Invaders Extreme, Space Invaders Infinity, I think is the one, the most recent collection that came out. But it just adds so much, and it's still like the core gameplay is just so fun. Um,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude, I find that same thing too with playing. So obviously, I've made a very good point here. I'm big on Tetris. Um, Tetris 99 is the same vein. Look, you're talking about a different variant of a game that's how old? Tetris 99 itself is not that old, but it's not like it's lighting the world on fire graphically here.
right,
But for
right.
me, it's ridiculously fun. And again, and we're going to talk about this in a different way too. I think this is something that we haven't mentioned yet, and I think this is a conversation that we could have with a game like a League of Legends. Even look, it's fun because of maybe gameplay, or maybe audio, or maybe other reasons, competitiveness. When you start getting these games online and playing them, I think that's a whole nother element you could add to saying this conversation. It's like, look, the graphics don't necessarily make it, but just maybe the sheer competitiveness makes it, a great game. Um, you know, just a thought.
So, yeah, absolutely. And in that vein, I'm going to say one, and you're going to smack me in the head next time you see me. Worms.
Well, no, you're not wrong. I completely agree. That look, Worms was never, even in its day, the graphics were, I'm talking like Worms Armageddon. Let's go back 20 plus years,
Okay.
which is odd to say because if I recall, that game is still updated by the developers to this day.
More
The
than like,
original,
listen, more than likely,
I'm pretty
because
certain
it's
that it
still
is.
people still play it like crazy.
Yeah. So, but even when it was released back in the late 90s, that still wasn't one of those that was lighting the world on fire graphically. It wasn't meant to be either. It was really focusing on gameplay and multiplayer, and back then local area networks. Um, Yeah, yeah, good old LAN parties, kids. Um, yeah, no, but it was focused on different things. But even to this day, the graphics really haven't changed a whole lot on Worms. So yeah, but you have a whole lot of other facets that make it a great game. Even the more recent releases, whether it's a re-release or a newer version of it.
So here's another one that's fairly recent, and I say fairly recent. It's come out in, I believe, the last 10 years. It's a game that came out. It was a PS3 exclusive, but I really loved it. It was called 3D Dot Game Heroes. Do you remember that game?
No, no, I don't remember this one at all.
So if you still, I don't know if you still have a PS3 or
I
not.
do, I do.
Okay, this game, if you can find it at a decent price, it's worth snagging and running a playthrough. Um, so it reminds me a lot of the original Zelda games, and so like Legend of Zelda and um, Link to the Past, or Link Between Worlds. No, Link to the Past. Um, so it's like that isometric view. Um, Now, where it gets its name is everything is made out of voxels or pixels.
This is very like
Um,
Minecraft-ish.
Kind of, but it's kind of, but not really. I mean, yeah, it's kind of. I guess Minecraft is a good is a good comparison for it. But the other draw to it is you create your own character. So people actually went online and you could go online and download characters that people would design and you could put them in your game. And they actually, so like, obviously one of the most popular ones to get was a Link skin or Link whatever you want to call it for your game. So you basically remember the drawn to life games for the
Mm,
DS.
mm-hmm.
Very similar in that aspect where you're actually creating the main character, the hero of the game. You could change it throughout the game whenever you wanted to. So super cool. Plays very much like Legend of Zelda, but it is in that blocky, 8-bit style that became, super popular with Minecraft and everything. Um, Outstanding game. I just saw it the other day when I was at our local retro game store, and I hadn't seen it anywhere for a long time, but I still had my copy, but it was up to $50 for a
Wow.
PS3 game. So that's the only place I've seen it expensive. I don't know if it's still high price. I'll check Amazon right now and see what it comes up at. But highly recommend that you check it out if you haven't played it. Um, that's not, yeah, $60 for the Japanese version. I don't even see a price for the American one. So that,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's showing up for about 50, $60 on eBay.
yeah. So I mean, it's an Atlas game, so that's typical for Atlas games. They tend to appreciate in value. I remember there being a time where you could snag it for like $10, but apparently that is no longer the time. Um, but I wish was worse. I can let you borrow it. But it's a super fun game. It's definitely my favorite PS3 game. But that would fit that mold where it's just a super fun game, super inventive. It's got some great humor in it. Not the best graphical game you'll ever play in your life, but it's certainly one of the most fun.
So speaking of PS3 games, though, and I'll kind of go back, and I know we were kind of framing this around more modern, meaning the last few years. But have you ever played Chime HD,
No, I haven't.
the puzzle game on PS3?
Mm-mm.
So it's a puzzle game in the sense of it's hard. It's kind of like a hybrid between a Tetris and some other things. I don't know. It's a weird puzzle game, but it was developed as a basically for charity. Like the developers took the money because it was cheap. It was like a $5 or a $10 game, and all the money that it raised went to charity.
Hmm.
Supposedly, if I recall correctly. But there's some other variants of it. But the one for PS3, the thing that made it great too, again, was the soundtrack. So you have to look up YouTube and look up some of the Chime HD music,
Okay.
and some of the gameplay, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But again, it's a puzzle game. It wasn't anything fantastic even for the system, but it's ridiculous fun. Um, it just a very solid um, game, especially for the money. You know, because you really didn't have that much of an investment into it. I still have it downloaded on my PS3. I have not played it in a long time, um, and you know, I'd I'd love to say that it would fire it right up right now, but I don't know that it will. So,
Well, you know
but
what? As while we're on the PlayStation, how about Katamari Damacy?
yeah, it's another interesting one. I never,
So in this
I
one, all throughout the life cycle, because you can go to either the first one, the second one, you can go for the one that just came out for Switch not too long ago, and Xbox One and PS4. Never been a graphical powerhouse, right?
no, not at all. No, and sorry, I don't mean to kind of go back, but Chime Super Deluxe was the name I was thinking of the another version of it.
Okay, okay. Um, but that's, I mean, that's another game that was a huge, or at least it was very popular for a while. Came out with multiple sequels. None of them ever set the world on fire graphically. It was more about the gameplay and the quirkiness. And I think that it worked, and it was a fun game. It's gotten how many re-releases across every system. Um, to me, that's another feather in the cap of it. Doesn't have to be great looking to be a great game.
Right, right. No, exactly. And I think that's the point of this whole thing, man. I was really thinking about some of these other ones, and the one I've mentioned it here a couple times on our pods, and I've shot you the link for it, was Distropolis. It's a really simple game. It's a bunch of blocks that roll around a field basically, and
Right.
you're just shooting other blocks. But again, the music does it. I think it's a 5 song soundtrack. It's all techno or whatever the word is for it these days, electronic music. Um, but it's excellent. It fits really well. Um, but it works out well. Again, it's a Switch game. I'm sure it's out for other things, um, but it's one of those. It's really interesting to me in the fact that even even that game doesn't meet up to what the Switch can do graphically, and it's still to me a great game.
Right. And then
Uh,
one more I wanted to mention before we move on to the next little topic we wanted to hit real quick, um, and that is Untitled Goose Game.
I've
Now,
seen
did you
that.
play that at all?
I have not played it. I just
Okay.
assumed that it was a lot like Goat Simulator.
So I another perfect example. I was actually just going to say, and another one to mention along those same lines is Goat Simulator. Um, but now Untitled Goose Game, it's very simple graphics. It looks like cleaned up old PC graphics almost. And it's very, the lines are very clean, the models are very clean, but it's just it's a 3D world presented in 2D essentially. Um, Graphics are nothing to write home about, but it's an inventive game and it's fun. Um, Goat Simulator, I don't know that we need to even really explain that. I feel like you've either played it and you get the joke, or you're never going to get the joke.
No.
Um, and to me, I mean, the biggest joke to me of all with that game is how many expansions have come out for it and how many updates, which it just
It was
strikes me
pretty
as so
ridiculous.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can play Payday as a goat, so you're robbing banks as a team of goats. Like, okay, I guess that's where we're going with this now. Like, so it just goes to show that it's not necessarily the graphics that make the game. There's got to be more to it. And so if you but going the other direction, if you had to pick like the prettiest game you've seen, the one that best personifies next gen, what would you say it's been? Like, what was the first game? And it can be. I'll open it up to any generation. What was the first game you saw where you were like the whole total package, you were like, man, this is next gen gaming.
Big beefy shooty boys.
Well, besides Big Beefy Shooty Boys, obviously, that one. That I can't wait for the general public to see this on the Sega Jupiter, um, or the it could come out on the Xbox still. There's still that time that the window's open for Microsoft to step up and make a move.
I had to go there, man.
No, you had to.
You set that up, and I
You
would
knocked
say
it out of
that
the park.
the first time that I was really, and of course this answer is not going to surprise you. I honestly always thought that this would be one of those things that I would have an answer for a game that I saw on the computer, um, a PC game or something to that effect. And I do to a point have a little bit there. I don't know the exact name of the game, but I'm going to use this as kind of my precursor, and then I'll give my actual answer. There was an IndyCar game that I remember playing on the first Pentium based PC that we had at the house, which was along 94 ish. It was really early. It was like this I want to say it was like the second Pentium that was released, not the Pentium 2. I'm just saying like the second Pentium overall,
Right, right.
um, based on speed and whatnot. And I just remember seeing, it's like, wow, it just blew me away, But it was like it was akin to watching like a Virtual Cop or one of those types of games graphically, Virtual Fighter, that type of racing, Daytona, that
Okay.
basically like that. But
Daytona.
yeah, but being able to play a game like that in your house, it just kind of really like was like, wow, it's really cool. Console wise, the answer's not going to surprise you, but the first time I slapped Skyrim into the PS3 and was like, what is this? It was otherworldly looking to me. It was just crazy. Like I would spend time just staring at the sky, not because I was looking for dragons, just was looking at the graphics. It was like, it's really cool. And I'd love to like kind of go back now, as I have yet to throw it over the PS5 to upscale it, with the most recent version. Because yeah, I'm a sucker and I paid for the anniversary thing. Um, but I
I
would
got it
love to
for
see the
free.
difference. But yeah, I don't think I got it for free. Did you get it for free?
Yeah, I got it for free. Dude, listen, here's the deal. I haven't bought that game. I bought that game once and I didn't even technically buy it. Came with my 360. I bought a bundle that had it. It has moved from my 360 to my
Oh,
Xbox One, and then from my
okay.
Xbox One to my Series X. And I got it. They gave me the anniversary edition when I downloaded it on my Series X.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I didn't pay for the. I don't know. Whatever. Um, yeah, I've bought that game so many times over. But yeah, no, I go back and I remember the first time I played that for the PS3 and was like, my goodness, just like I was just blown away. Now, granted, it was 10 years ago. Um, or I could go back to the first time I smashed somebody with a ball bat in Grand Theft Auto.
Fair
So,
enough.
so how about you, man? Graphically, like just first time it blew you away.
So I've got three. All right, three different systems. So Super Mario 64 on the
Mm,
N64. Um, for the Xbox 360 generation, in the same vein. It was Oblivion,
mm-hmm.
because I spent probably as much time as you've spent on Sky. Well, no, probably not as much time as you spent on Skyrim, but like maybe as much time as you spent on Skyrim on PS3 is how much time I spent on Skyrim or on Oblivion on the 360.
Mm,
Um, just absolutely, and part of that though was I got that game when I had gotten that game, and then during the time that I had it was when I hurt my hip, and I couldn't. I was out of work for a month, and so I was sitting in my apartment just playing that just nonstop. Like it would seriously, the sun would come up, I would be up playing it, sun would go down. I'm still sitting in the same spot, like covered in Cheeto dust, playing Oblivion. Actually, it was Sour Patch Kid dust. Um, but that for the 360, and then when I played the beta, well, actually, I played. Was it the alpha build that I played? Because I was in the alpha and the beta for Destiny on the Xbox. Well, I played it on PS4 and on Xbox One. And when I played the alpha on Xbox or on PS4, and I played the beta um, on Xbox One. And playing Destiny for the first time I was like, wow, this is a next gen game. The graphics, the gameplay, everything about it. I was, it had its hooks in me. And so that was when I knew what that generation was going to bring.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that because the Destiny series overall is just so dynamic. It's very pretty. It's there's a lot of like eye catching, eye popping things on those games.
Right.
That that's yeah, I definitely could see that.
And then just seeing the way, being able to go from space into orbit and then down onto the planet and then back up into orbit and back into space and going and seeing the way that the AI behaved and how they would flank and do so. I was like, wow, man, this is real. Like they figured this stuff out. And it was really good. And I was very impressed. Clearly, since I'm still giving them money.
Oh man.
So
Before we
you
move, yeah. It goes. So before we move on here, do we have anything else on games, or do you just want to kind of go wrap up here with our other topic
no,
here?
let's I'm good. I'm good on the games. Unless you had anything else to go with.
No, no, I don't.
So let's jump into the next topic and I'll let you kind of lay this one out.
Yeah, no, it's something we have talked about. I think we've done a couple times. Just kind of peppered it in here. What are you listening to? We've talked about music this whole time. So what's on your playlist? What's in your car or whatever?
So it's funny that we were talking about TV shows and movies and stuff and how the soundtrack can kind of make it. I've been watching and greatly enjoying Peacemaker on HBO Max. And I think by the time this episode airs, Peacemaker will be done with, and hopefully, I won't be upset with the finish. But dude, James Gunn yet again killing it with the soundtrack. So this time instead of like 70s pop, it's more 80s hair metal. Um, and so I'm listening to some Wigwam, who I'd never heard of before this show. But if you haven't seen it, if nothing else, I need you to go on YouTube and watch the opening credits of this show. I need
Yeah,
you to do that.
I'll check it
Okay.
out.
Um, but dude, Hanoi Rocks, Poison, Guns N' Roses, this band that I think is fairly recent called Dynasty, but it's spelled with a Z in it. Um, I downloaded one of their albums. Like they've really hit the nail on the head with this. You know, it's killer, man. The soundtrack is just awesome. Like looking just if I do it real quick, um, the Human Paradox is the one song that really stuck out to me off of that album. But um, it's just been and Do You Want to Taste It is a song by Wigwam. So it's oh well, nope, I'm not even gonna do that because that's a whole nother episode. I was gonna bring up a topic, but and then one more song. So shows you how out of touch I am with today's children or today's youth. Um, so I'd never heard that song ABCDEFU. Had you ever heard that song? Have you ever heard that song before?
No, I haven't. I don't.
Oh, dude, it's great. It's great.
Who
So
does that
I
one?
just discovered it. It's someone named Gayle, Gayle.
Okay, no, I don't know this one.
So I highly recommend you listen to it. Not with the kids around, um, but it's a pretty good song. And then a semi, I don't know if you want to call it a cover or what you want to call it. um, but it's called Faded Love by Leone. And it's the way that the song goes. Everybody knows the Numa Numa guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it kind of falls into that, like, kind of follows that song a little bit. Not the whole song, but like the chorus. So I can't, I'm not going to sing it. I know you're waiting for me to like kind of play it out for you, and I'm not going to do it.
Why
So
not?
you
I was waiting for
because
it.
because my voice is terrible, Tom. At least for that kind of stuff. When I'm not screaming break stuff into a microphone drunkenly at Hollywood, it doesn't sound that great. So so how about you, man? What are you listening to?
My tastes are always very eclectic and all over the place, and I kind of go back and forth with things. There are certain things I pepper in that are always going to be, things that I've liked for the last few years or all time or whatever. So I'm looking back through my current likes, if you will. I just go through and I occasionally click stuff into my playlists, and I'm back in the glitch mob again. So I'm really really digging that again. But kind of went back and I rediscovered Gravity Kills. You remember them?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So and Gravity Kills, if I recall correctly, we were talking about ECW a little earlier. They would play some of the commercial music. They would be Gravity Kills. It's
Nice.
probably how I got introduced to them. I've been really big into Team Headkick, and I had no idea why. I guess because the gaming and the the music. It just really, if you're unfamiliar, Team Headkick does the Deadpool rap. It's very
Yes.
popular but they have a whole catalog of all they do is gaming music and pretty much gaming and comics. It's all it is, and it's just this ridiculous catalog that they've had over the last 10 years or so. It's just it's a lot of it's funny. But there's a lot of talent there, really. I mean, for what it is. Um, but man, I don't know that they're really that universally known outside of the Deadpool stuff.
No, I
Um,
knew him from the Deadpool soundtrack, but I didn't know that they actually. I thought maybe that was somebody in house that did that song. I didn't realize they actually had other music. I'll have to check them out.
oh yeah, it's crazy because I was listening to I'd posted something about one of the Overwatch songs that they did that I really liked it, and I have like every once in a while I'll tweet like a song of the day type thing, and I posted one of their songs and they liked it. And I was like, yeah, they don't have a lot of followers, do they? But no,
Nice.
very, very worth checking out because pretty much 95% of their catalog is all gaming related. So very cool. And the other couple that I've really digging lately, Glassjaw, which I'm still to this day, it was one of those bands that like I was kind of lost out on. I've always heard of them, and really didn't really discover them until the last month or two. As far as like really listening to them, which it's really strange because I was such a Deftones fan, and Glassjaw just kind of fell by the wayside. And it's like I kind of was like, man, I found this other band. It's like I'm not saying that they're exactly like the Deftones. Glassjaw hits a little harder, but my goodness, like up my alley. I just, for whatever reason, never gave them the time of day, and really digging them lately. And Luke Hash, which is I mentioned Distropolis again. That's the artist that provides all the music for that soundtrack. It's just phenomenal electronic music, and really digging it, and just good
Oh,
stuff. So
nice.
that's kind of it, man. Other than that, I'll always pepper in recently my Leonard Skinner. But I will phrase one last question for you on this one. Are you excited for this year's halftime show?
Um, Before I answer that question, I'm going to tell you there were a couple more bands I wanted to throw out because I was looking at my most recent playlist, and so just to give you an idea, so Balls Out by the Bloodhound Gang, Skeleton Boy by the Friendly Fires, which if you haven't
Mm,
heard of Friendly Fires, they're outstanding. Been listening to some Necro Goblikon. Are you familiar with them?
no, I'm not.
Oh, good lord, dude. Okay, you need. I'm gonna send you some Necro Goblikon when we sign off tonight. You need to watch these videos. they're freaking hilarious. So basically, here's the deal: they're a band, and they have a goblin, and the goblin basically fills the spot of the boss tone in the recently departed Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Um, he just runs around on stage and just acts like a crazy man. Um, and his name is John Goblikon, and he has his own he has his own YouTube show, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll have to
Um,
check that out.
and then the last song I'll leave you with is New Jersey Makes the World Takes by Census Fail.
Nice, nice.
So awesome song. So now back to your question about the halftime show. Um Complicated answer, man. I am, but I'm not. I typically skip the halftime show anyway. I got to work this year too,
Okay.
so I won't get to see it. Um, I'm very very torn on it. I do like some of the musicians that are going to be performing, but and I guess it kind of shouts LA.
Yeah.
Um, but but by the same token, I'm gonna run it back like this. So if they're getting an LA themed Super Bowl show, halftime show, when the Super Bowl was in New Jersey, why was it not Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi? Why was it the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Bruno Mars?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know.
I'm just saying, if we're going with regionally themed halftime shows,
I
that
don't
kind of would have
know.
made sense.
That's a good point. I, I'm here's the thing. It was funny when they announced the lineup. First of all, I went with the which one of these things is not like the other with Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah,
That one, whatever. Um, but look, anyone that knows me, I've been a big Eminem fan for a long time. Obviously, the earlier stuff. Um, so that's cool. And Dre and Snoop are just iconic.
right.
But I'm really curious to see if like they pull out some of these other guys that over the years that have done anything with them. You know what I mean? Just for like a split second, cameo. You know, because look, I'm going to throw this back to wrestling. We didn't have any great surprises in the Royal Rumble this year. And so
Right.
I would really like some great surprises in the halftime show.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I can
I
agree
want
with
to
you on that.
I want to see some Nate Dogg running out there.
I want to see more RNG.
Yeah, see
If we don't
exactly.
get some regulators, I'm gonna be mad.
Exactly. No, I'm looking forward to it. I think that's the only saving grace for the Super Bowl, other than maybe the Bungles will win. I don't know. That's
Dude,
weird.
I need the Bungles to win. Here's the deal. I like Matt Stafford. I think that Matt Stafford is deserving of a Super Bowl. I hate the LA Rams. I hate the LA Rams. I hate the Chargers because they play in LA. I never want anything good to happen to any team from LA. I never want anything good to happen to the city of LA. I abhor the city. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And it doesn't help that they have Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller, who I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff coming out about Von Miller, but Von Miller is a douchebag, to
Yeah,
put it mildly.
he's interesting.
Dude, I am so out on LA winning this Super Bowl. It's going to be unbearable. Um, they're going to be like the Lakers 2.0, where people who have never even seen a football game are going to be wearing Rams gear and claiming that they're lifelong Rams fans.
Right.
So,
And
and
by
the
the
owner's a
time
piece of garbage too.
we post this, this all will be kind of funny if this is listened to after the fact, but which is why we try to not to necessarily do timely content, but we have to because it's the friggin' Super Bowl.
Right.
Um, Look, I don't care for the Rams. The last time I cared for them, Flipper Anderson was a receiver. Um,
That's good. That's good. I like that.
And don't get me wrong, I did like Jerome Bettis, but that's where it
Right.
stopped. Look, I'm the same vein. Like Matthew Stafford, it's a phenomenal quarterback. It's a shame that he was not given any extra opportunities in Detroit, other than basically having to run really, really bad teams. And I'm not saying that other players that he was with weren't trying. It's just that he was just not given anything.
Right.
Um, and when you wrap the team around him, it's pretty evident what happens. On the flip side, though, man, I don't know. This is gonna be tough because you look at the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, LSU stuff, and I remember hearing that once Brady was out of the AFC, Mahomes was the second coming, and it was just going to be nothing but ring after ring after ring, which we haven't seen. Now they're competitive,
Right.
but and I don't mean to put the cart before the horse here, but uh, you give me a few years of Burrow and Chase and everyone else there, ooh, this could be really interesting for the Bengals for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not to say that they don't have scumbags on their team too, because they still have Joe Mixon. But I just, I don't know, man. I feel like I could deal with Cincinnati fans who have never won anything more than I could deal with fake LA fans.
Yeah, yeah,
And
no,
also, let's look at listen, I will forever be grateful to Deshaun Jackson for everything he did in Philly, except for that game against Dallas in his rookie year where he let the ball go on like the three before he scored, like a jackass. I'm standing in the middle of Hollywood Diner in the bar, surrounded by stinking Dallas fans, and he does that crap. Um, but what's funny to me is, if the silver lining is if LA does win, he demanded his way off of that team.
yeah, he did.
So he will have demanded his way off of a Super Bowl winning team, and that'll just make me laugh.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Oh well.
yep.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. Really curious to see. I hope the halftime shows, on paper, to me, it's really good. I'm hoping it lives up to even half of what it could be. You know, uh, you know, I don't know. It's really, those things are really hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
I miss the old halftime heat.
Yes. No, I agree. I agree. The Rock and Mankind wrestling in an empty stadium.
Yes, sir. But nah, this has been fun. We got anything else to close us out here?
No, I think that is about it. Do want to send some well wishes out to some people. I'm not going to name names just because I don't know, um, if they necessarily want it put out there. But there's some of you guys that are in our thoughts, and we're hoping that things get better soon. So, I think with that, we have been the Noise Brigade. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook, and at doublewidecoffin.com and bigbeefyshootyboys.com.